Here you are safe, for now. Outside of this world is very dangerous, so please beware of infected. You have only one chance. Prepare your best weapons and a car. Be ready for a variety of survival mechanics and a very realistic surroundings and landscapes. So I don't have time to someone else you can trust. Listen to them carefully and let's survive together.
Waking up alone in a world that is no longer recognizable, you set out to find answers and the resources to survive. The Day Before is a third-person survival MMO set in a deadly post-pandemic America overrun by zombie-like infected who have a taste for flesh. But this isn't the only threat to contend with. Other non-infected are willing to kill for valuable resources like food, weapons, and vehicles, all in the name of survival. First announced in 2021, The Day Before continues to top the most wishlisted games on Steam. With a lot of excitement surrounding this new MMO, and with the release date just around the corner, it's certainly hard to ignore the fact that there is still a lot of unanswered questions surrounding one of the most intriguing upcoming games. With the infected everywhere across this post-apocalyptic vision of America, you will be tasked with surviving in any way you can. The game promises large-scale exploration and drivable, detailed vehicles that you can find scattered across the map or steal from fellow survivors. You can also steal other players' weapons and food. It's kill or be killed. You can, of course, work in a team for survival and play with friends in your attempt to survive by scavenging for resources. There is a colony of survivors in a centralized hub-type area that will help keep the calm in the middle of the zombie-infested storm. Here you are able to sell your collected loot, communicate with other players without the fear of PvP gunfights, join groups, and tackle quests together. There is base building, like we've seen in other games like Fallout 4 or State of Decay, and crafting using resources that have been acquired. According to the developers themselves, they have focused more around sound design instead of cluttering the player's screen with HUD information. This decision may lead to a much more immersive experience when exploring the world. The combat looks relatively simple, centered around a fairly typical third-person shooter that offers players the option to use cars and other objects as cover. But the developer has mentioned multiple finishes or takedowns, depending on the equipped weapon. Another part of the combat system is that carrying too much equipment will cause your character to make more noise. Noise seems to be a large aspect of the game, where rooms filled with the infected can be avoided in order to save limited ammunition. Also, meeting players out in the world has you making the choice to either hide and avoid the interaction, team up, or take them down, stealing their resources. Think of this as the Dark Zone, but with much larger repercussions if the fight doesn't go your way. Other features the developers have boasted about have been: the game will not include loading screens other than the initial one when loading into the game. Traversing through the open world will be seamless and natural. You have the option to customize your weapons based on the attachments and loot you find. Human NPCs outside of the hub that provide side quests and sell items. With a growing sense of anticipation surrounding the MMO since its reveal in 2021, there has been some skepticism and controversy that has surfaced. Shortly after the news of a delay, the studio appeared to be looking for volunteers to help with upcoming projects. The biggest sticking point was the website's description of part-time volunteers, ranging from translating to community moderating, who receive non-monetary rewards, such as participation certificates and free codes. Reactions are varying across the board, but the overall consensus is that this decision feels quite odd, potentially exploitative, and doesn't bode well for the game's intended release date. It's all kind of bizarre and raises questions about whether this game has been made by properly paid staff. The skepticism, on the other hand, is largely due to the fact that we haven't really seen all that much gameplay or had any substantial information about the game, which has only intensified as we draw closer to the release date. The most recent video, which showed off ray tracing, didn't show any gameplay footage, and fans appear to remain quite skeptical on whether The Day Before can deliver on its promises. The Day Before release date is currently set for March 1st, 2023. This date comes after the game was initially pushed back from its original June 2022 window last year, following the decision to shift to Unreal Engine 5. It's unclear too whether at this stage the release date is just for the PC version of the game or not. The Day Before is looking like a big and ambitious game, coming from a developer that has had zero experience with anything on this scale. It has been published by Mytona, a company that has only ever had experience with free-to-play mobile titles. Looking at all of these factors together, you can't help but be more than a little skeptical about the game and what's going on with it behind the scenes. Every trailer we've seen so far has been heavily scripted, with no evidence of regular gameplay. Each scene seems carefully choreographed to show the game in action, while telling us very little about what it's really about. It just feels like they are showing exactly what a lot of us are looking for in a game, but with a distinct lack of substance to any of the footage, other than some amazing photorealistic scenery. The developer, fantastic, isn't a completely unknown developer, and has knocked out some half-decent games. And while Mytona, the Singaporean publisher, is known for making some pretty big mobile games, it doesn't really say much about the publisher's place in making AAA games like The Day Before claims it'll be. But it at least shows that there's some money behind this whole operation. The Day Before is a game that I really want to be hyped about, but there are so many red flags that I can't help but think that it won't even be close to hitting the type of hype that has managed to set for itself. I urge anyone who is interested in this title to refrain from pre-ordering if this becomes available, and hold out for after day one, where others can show what the game is actually capable of. I really hope I'm wrong, as the gaming community is obviously screaming out for this type of title. But The Day Before, at this stage, is set to be either a new gaming phenomenon or a major disappointment.